Well, as we continue to mark 7 years since the Marikana massacre, let's look back now at the award-winning film inspired by the tragedy. Mma Moeketsi is based on a true story, a domestic worker from rural Lesotho working for a family in Johannesburg. Mma Moeketsi's only son is an illegal miner at the Marikana platinum mine in the northwest. Well, in the wake of the strike in August 2012, his phone is off and he's nowhere to be found. To tell us more about this film, I'm joined by independent filmmaker and director Mma Moeketsi. Ria, good evening, and thanks for your time on this day, and I'm sure emotional for you because having made this movie, I'm sure you had to deal with all kinds of reality. First, for those who haven't seen it, whose story are you telling here?
So this story inspired, of course, by the true events of Marikana, but more specifically by a lady who worked for my family for about 14 years.
Oh, it's someone you know?
Yes.
Okay.
She's basically our family. And in 2012, when the strike happened, it turned out that her son was involved, but like, you know, in the movie, he's a illegal worker, but he still got caught up.
Okay, so was he hurt in the incident? What eventually happened?
He is one of the ones injured, but he was not part of the 34 that were killed.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what does this story tell us then? I mean, in the bigger picture, in the context of Marikana itself?
You see, the purpose of the film is to really hone in on how this is not just about the statistics or the numbers. We read 34, 78 injured, and all the numbers of accountability, who's in court, how many people are in court, and who's been paid out or who hasn't. But really, we are also speaking about individuals and families, and this affected, you know, people who some of us know, and some people who were important, you know, in our society.
So what was the impact on Mma Moeketsi, the woman who is your family? And, you know, were you with her at the time when she was trying to get a hold of her son? What was happening in that?
So at that time, I was living in Cape Town. I was a student there, and she was in Johannesburg with my family, where she works and had been working for about 13 years at the time. Basically, you know, the events unfold in the film as they did in real life, which is she was alone in the house, and there was just a build-up of anguish because there was no information that was really specific about her son that was reaching her. So her son's phone was off, and she really couldn't understand the news that was coming from the media in terms of everything was reported in English, and there's just one station that reports in Sesotho, which is her language. And how that has impacted her is that her son since had to leave the mines and has been looking for work since. So, and obviously the family had suffered a financial loss from that.
So 7 years later, what are they saying about this? Like you say, he's still looking for work.
Yeah.
Financially, it's you know, it's obviously a mess for them. 7 years later, what have they been talking about? What have they been saying about it? What has he been saying about it?
Everyone suffers the scars of that event, and it's not just a loss of work, but also a loss of faith in just going back there and continuing with life as it was.
Do we hear from him in this movie?
No.
From the son?
No. I mean, the film is about the days leading up to the 16th.
Okay.
So it's the 10 days from when the first like murders happened, and just, yes, the days leading up to, and not really an account of the aftermath.
Yes, because we do tend to forget about the days leading up to this, and the deaths also that we saw happening. Was it 10 that happened before that as well? So and we forget those who were killed in those in
those
the
days
as well.
leading
Yes,
up,
in the days leading up to that as well. So where's Mma Moeketsi today, and what has happened with her?
Mma Moeketsi still works for my family. Her son is back in Lesotho looking for work, and right now she's the primary provider for her family, and she's hoping that her son Moeketsi will find work, and that's the situation at the moment.
Okay, so it's a story of others not those who are in the center of it, but
Exactly.
others, and the sideline stories of all of this and the impacts, which,
Absolutely.
I must say tells the bigger story, because we have so many of those workers who came from elsewhere. They weren't from South Africa,
Yeah.
or they weren't from the Northwest or from Rustenburg, and we forget just who they were feeding and what this was for and why they took the chances that they did.
I mean, when I was doing the research for the film, I spent time going to the Marikana community. And there's a lot of people who are not from there, people who've come from all over South Africa, from outside South Africa seeking work. And some people don't necessarily work for the mine, but who are part of the community that were affected by those events. So I think we forget, as you said, that it's not just the people who were on strike, or the people who were shot or injured. I think there's an entire community.
There are more victims
Exactly.
than what we think of this tragedy. Where can we see the film?
The film is currently on Showmax, so you can subscribe to Showmax, or if you do have a DSTV subscription, I think you get the Showmax as part of your package.
Okay, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's a filmmaker there, and Mma Moeketsi. She's made Mma Moeketsi. It's just a different story from what we've been hearing about Marikana, but very related as well. We're more than